Hi, everybody. It's Ben Thompson here, and welcome to the Import Export Podcast. Today, we're talking about rising shipping rates and how shippers can accurately plan the loading of trucks and shipping containers to reduce their shipping costs. If you're involved in global trade and you're already aware of some of the challenges involved with planning, packaging, and loading goods for safe transport inside shipping containers. Today, we're joined by Lucas from Easy Cargo 3D. Lucas has experience in the freight industry and a great understanding of how to accurately plan container loading. Lucas, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. Hi.
Yeah, so before we get started, Lucas, can you tell me a little bit about the experience you've had in the shipping industry and how that has led to the work that you're doing at Easy Cargo?
Mm-hmm. So right after school, I started working for Panalpina, which back then was one of the top 5 freight forwarders in the world. I started working at the entry-level position, but I worked my way up to being a team leader of 2 teams in the export department. And after 5 years of working for Panalpina, as many of you may know, the Panalpina was taken over by DSV, another freight forwarder.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, the branch I was working at in Prague was closed. So I was looking for new opportunities. And at the same time, Jan, the CEO of Easy Cargo, was looking for someone who would do the business development and would have some understanding of how the shipping industry works. So a friend of mine hooked me up with Jan, and I started working for Easy Cargo, and it's been 2 years, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good to hear. And so when it comes to actually, loading shipping containers, there are many important aspects that shippers must get right. Otherwise, it can cause problems along the supply chain. Can you start by letting us know, what are some of the biggest challenges that shippers actually face when it comes to planning and loading their shipping containers correctly?
Yeah, so there are a lot of challenges, obviously. Shippers need to make sure that the load is not overweight, the load is not underweight. They need to make sure that it's balanced, that the cargo is secured and it doesn't move in the container and all that. But really, the thing that the shippers are focused on right now the most is reducing the shipping costs. So when it comes to loading, that is pretty much optimizing or utilizing the cargo space that is available to its limits.
Yeah. And today, over the past 12 months, we've seen such crazy high, record high sea freight and air freight rates that are affecting trade lanes around the world. So how can you give us an insight into, why are these rates so much higher than they've ever been?
Yeah, that's crazy. The rates have went up and they're about up to 6 times as high as they used to be, at least on some lanes, typically from China to US, from China to Europe. And really, obviously the answer is pandemic. It's caused by pandemic, mainly because people in Western countries, in North America, in Europe, Australia, and everywhere, due to the restrictions by the governments, they tend to spend more time at their homes. So they just spend more money on goods rather than services because they cannot spend on services like restaurants and traveling. So they just spending on goods to make their stay at their homes more pleasant. They're buying some like electronics and household equipment, furniture, and all that is manufactured in China nowadays, or the vast majority of that. So there is a huge increase in the shipping capacity demand from China to North America and to Europe. And the ports were like, even in normal conditions, the ports would not be able to handle such an increase. But even in pandemic, it's way worse because the ports have to deal with conditions like, shipyards workers being in quarantine, and that is on both sides. That is in North America, but that's also in China. Like the port in Yantian was closed for, I think, 2 weeks, basically closed. So you have a huge spike in shipping capacity demand on one side caused by increased import or increased consumption of goods in America, and then you have decreased supply of shipping capacity on the other hand, caused by the problems in the ports. And then you have some other aspects like containers supply shortage. And so if you combine all those aspects, you get a huge increase in prices that I think we've never seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite crazy. It's putting a lot of pressure on shippers all over the world and changing things quite rapidly. So because of the shipping costs, I think it's more important than ever now for suppliers to do everything that they can to keep their shipping costs as low as possible, just so that they can remain competitive in today's market.
Yeah.
And that leads it into Easy Cargo. How does Easy Cargo specifically help shippers, plan and load their containers to actually reduce the landed cost of their products?
Mm-hmm. So according to our calculations and empiric experience, companies get on average 7% better utilization of cargo space when using Easy Cargo compared to not using any load planning application at all. So with today's prices, even if you only shipped 1 container per month, you still can save thousands of dollars each year with Easy Cargo or with the load planning applications in general. So that's the main thing, how we can help shippers reduce the shipping costs. Then of course there are some side savings where not only you can optimize the cargo space you have, but also you don't have to worry about, for example, ordering the wrong size container, because you can simulate whether or not the cargo will fit in the container before actually ordering the container. So yeah, these are the 2 main ways how we can save or help the shippers to reduce the shipping costs.
Yeah, and along with saving money, saving money is obviously an important part of the process to remain the costs as low as possible. And there are other issues faced in the supply chain and loading containers. How else does Easy Cargo help the shippers through the loading and planning process?
Mm-hmm. So apart from actually optimizing the cargo space or the loading process of the cargo you have, we also have some other features, like for example, for truckers, we have axle weight distribution or axle weight calculation, where you can see how, what is the axle weight for each individual axle of your truck and the trailer. So you can make sure that your truck is not overweight, or that it's not that the weight is not unevenly distributed. We have, for example, the cargo database, where you can store your cargo items, and then you can basically load the cargo that you want to use from the database. We have very nice 3D model. We have so-called priority groups. So for trackers, we have this feature where if you want to unload your cargo sequentially in different location, we can plan ahead for that, and we can load or plan the loading of the cargo in a way that you always have the cargo you need at each individual stop available to you right after opening the trailer, and many other things.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like a much more efficient and streamlined process than trying to manage this on Excel sheets or documents or anything like that. So
Or pen and paper.
yeah, pen and paper as well. Things are done quite manually sometimes, and it sounds like it's a great solution. Shippers need to understand how to load their containers to maximize the space and reduce their costs. So yeah, I highly recommend people see whether it can help them in that process, and also help them do things in a better way. So yeah, I appreciate you joining us today, Lucas. It's a critical process, shipping goods internationally. People have got to make sure they plan and load their containers right. Plenty of benefits to your software by the sounds of it, and appreciate you joining us today, and good luck to your team.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Good luck. Have a good night.
Cheers.